Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour, and today is Wednesday, September 29th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever been introduced to. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. Go to that website, click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner. It will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that 24th chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Worksheet, or vice versa. It's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships and turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet itself. It's just a simple PDF file. No strings attached, no reason to sign up for a newsletter or put in any credit card information. It's absolutely free. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. And if you tap on that, it'll let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through the worksheet process and or given powerful testimonials about how the use of that process has improved the quality of their lives. We encourage people to do that soon and often. It frequently results in them having comments or questions. If you are one of those people, give us a call. The number is 563-999-3581. When you call that number and press 1, it'll put a little question mark by your phone number, and I'll announce you by your area code. You can also email us at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org, whyagain.org. And we're also doing the Course in Miracles workbook lessons this year. Today is the 272nd day of the year. So today's lesson reads, how can illusions satisfy the Creator's offspring? Creator, the truth belongs to me. My home is set in heaven by your will and mine. As such, dreams cannot content me. Illusions can't bring me happiness. Only your memory can satisfy your offspring. I will accept no less than all that you have given me. I'm surrounded by your love forever, still forever gentle and forever safe. Creator, your offspring must be as you created them. Today we bypass illusions. And if we hear temptation call to us to stay and linger in a dream, we turn aside and ask ourselves if we, the offspring of creation, could possibly be content with dreams, when the truth is heaven can be chosen just as easily as hell, and love will happily replace all fear. We're also doing the Course in Miracles experiment book by Pam Grout, and her lesson 272 is titled, No More Jerky Knees. She quotes Pete Holmes as saying, we hit delete on a lot of inconvenient miracles. Pam writes, most of us know our shoe size, our height, and our credit card numbers. But how many of us admit to our premature cognitive commitments? We all have them. These are beliefs about reality that cause our brains to edit out everything that doesn't fit our perceptions. Premature cognitive commitments are basically knee-jerk reactions that create a false sense of safety and security. What they really are is a prison, trapping us in yesterday. Lesson 272 makes no bones about it. Illusions will never fully satisfy and will never deliver happiness. So today we pass illusions by and we let love happily replace all fear. So that's our Course in Miracles lesson and our Pam Grout commentary, and we have, as usual, about 50 minutes left to entertain your comments, questions, topic suggestions, testimonials. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And if you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. What's on your mind? How can we support you today? I have, you're less apt to be defensive, aggressive, irritable, fearful, or habitually reactive. When you are grounding yourself in the now, you are less inclined to rush to judgment. You're less inclined to make blind assumptions and hasty, often emotionally charged decisions. When you are grounded in the now, reactivity is not determined by the strength of the stimulus. Rather, it's based on how far you are from your authentic self, how much you're able to be aware in the moment of your authentic self and the moment and your thoughts. In other words, the strength of your reactivity is directly proportional to how not in touch with the present moment you are. The more you're separating yourself from active awareness of the present moment, the more highly reactive you will be. So he suggests that taking the next step, he suggests that he wants to place before us over and over again an invitation. I mentioned this before, but it's gotten the highlight in the book for me, and I think it's really worth mentioning again. What's the invitation he's placing before us? There's an invitation to eliminate unnecessary suffering. Show of hands, who would like to eliminate unnecessary suffering? Oh, every hand in the audience goes up. Right? No one wants to suffer unnecessarily. And the invitation is accepted only when we choose to cultivate greater present moment awareness. So he says, as I've been illustrating in the previous pages in this book, this means spending more of your life in the now, capital N-O-W, and less time dwelling in stories about the past, or the future, or yourself, or anything or anyone that you see as other than you. This would be other people, God, money, the environment, the world, the healthcare system, your physical disease, etc. So, the way you cultivate greater presence is you reduce the amount of time you spend focused on stories about the past or the future, about yourself or anyone or anything else. He goes on to say, we human beings are thinking animals. And while thinking is an essential way of knowing, identification with our thoughts causes our thinking to become defective and inferior. This is what David Bohm is referring to when he calls us to pay attention to sustained incoherence. And this is in part of Dr. Michael Ryce's current reality management worksheet. And it is defined in the footnote in the glossary of the worksheet as denial of responsibility for distasteful results while keeping up the thinking that creates those results. There is a flaw in our thinking process, and part of it is the judgment, the separation, and part of it is identification with the thoughts. We are not our thoughts. So once we believe our own thoughts and continue to unquestioningly assume that they are true, we're no longer thinking clearly. Actually, we're no longer thinking at all. And this is where Richard Moss goes right into exactly what Dr. Ryce talks about. It's just the law of resonance. Somebody says, don't think about the color of your front door. Don't think about the color of your car. Don't think about your, biggest success. Don't think about your favorite piece of clothing. And we set up a vibration which resonates that material that's in the mind of whoever hears that. And if they have the corresponding material in them resonating, it comes into their awareness. There's no thinking involved. It's resonance. It's vibration. And Richard Moore says, actually, we're no longer thinking at all. We are simply repeating an already programmed mental construct. And we're repeating it because it's been resonated, because it's been stirred into conscious awareness or activity. Richard says, we're like the software in a computer. Software doesn't think. It simply organizes data according to how it has been programmed. There's an essential piece here, and that is that there is one thing you can never think about. That's the present moment. That's now. That is, you can't get outside of the present to make it an object of your thought. And this creates a dilemma. The only time that actually exists is the present moment. Life is only lived in this moment, capital N-O-W. And yet nothing at all can be said about the present moment. So all of our thoughts, all of our words, all of our belief systems are about the past or the future or somebody else or our sense of ourself. You can't actually think about what is real in this moment. There is that thing we talked about just a little bit ago where as I step into a new moment, there's a gap, there's an instant, there's a microsecond before I throw thought and word on it where I have an experience. And when I practice being present in present moment awareness, I expand that brief moment in time. I slow things down because I'm in the experience without stepping back from it, labeling it, abstracting my thought, identifying with it, etc. Krishnamurti talks about this over and over again when he says, the thought is not the thing. The word is not the thing. When I say the word tree, that's a mental construct. That's a few letters strung together. And when I say that to a human being who uses that language, who's had experiences of seeing trees or climbing trees or cutting down trees or shaking the fruit out of trees, all of the memories, all of the thought structure that they have around that word comes into their awareness. And if I say, look at that tree, there's a moment where their eyes fall on the tree, where they're having an experience that isn't colored by all of those words and memories. And then, in a heartbeat or an instant, the memories flood in. And they start projecting it onto their mind's image of this living, growing, ever-changing energy system that they're calling a tree. So every time we think about something, we create an abstract relationship to life. We create a mental representation of it. We are creating a perceptual construct which is not the same as the thing. And thinking interprets and describes everything outside of us, our body, our feelings. It doesn't let us know or experience any of them. Only awareness does that. And thinking is so vulnerable to distortion because it is not the actual life moment. It's not the actual thing. And when people are unconscious of the way that their ego tries to make them special, then they unconsciously project their own specialness either onto their career or their nation or their religion or their ideology. And that's how, when powerful people do that, we end up in wars and genocides and ecological disasters, etc. So, in the mandala of being, he introduced a process that you can use to observe and experience firsthand the effects, endless thoughts and stories that you tell yourself, that every one of us tells ourselves. And it's a simple way to begin to understand egoic thinking and how it profoundly affects every aspect of our life experience, including our health. He says there's a free e-course at his website about working with the mandala. So feel free to go check out Richard Moss and his website and the free e-course on working with the mandala. Mandala is a Sanskrit word meaning circle. And it has been a universal symbol over thousands of years, particularly in the Eastern spiritual traditions. In those traditions, mandalas are a form of sacred art, elaborate paintings that symbolically depict the journey from the world of illusion, which is created by the ego, to the realization of the timeless self, the center of us all. So the mandala of being is just a simple way of modeling how your thinking mind operates. And he wants it to be for us a practical tool for the practice of moving more into present moment awareness. So he has a diagram, and it's a circle, and in the center of the circle is a smaller circle with the word now in all caps. And then there's an arrow pointing from that center circle straight up, and one straight down, and one straight to the left, and one straight to the right. And then, just outside the larger circle, which is just beyond the points of the arrows, at the top of the circle above the top arrow is the word future, and at the bottom, below the bottom arrow and outside the circle is the word past. And to the right, just outside the larger circle and just outside the arrow, is the word you, or object. And to the left, just outside the larger circle or the arrow, is the word me, or subject. And he says, if you think about this diagram, how many nows capital NOWS, do you see? He says, hint, this is a trick question. If you answered 1, look again. The mandala of being illustrates that there is only the now. But in a psychological sense, there are 5 different states of now. There's the awareness of now in the moment, first and foremost, and that's represented by the central circle. That is when you are in that moment of being aware of everything. So, is there more we can support you with today?
No, I'll be listening, but that's great. Wish us luck. Our Sudanese woman arrives tomorrow night, and my Iraqi friend has been making a long list of things I want to say to this new woman in Arabic. And so it's a very exciting time over here.
Wonderful. I will be sending loving thoughts and blessings.
Thanks.
And look forward to updates as you see fit to share them.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Tim. I'll give them. Right.
All right. Blessings.
Thanks, Dr. Tim.
So we have about 30 minutes left. 563-999-3581. Plenty of time for comments and questions. I welcome comments and questions about anything we've talked about in the past 10 years. I should mention that a wonderful resource that I know I've mentioned on the show before, but I give to patients on a regular basis is the YouTube channel for Brad Yates, Y-A-T-E-S.
In the perception that seems to be painful to us, and we don't know why it's painful. Why are you hurting? Well, I don't know. I'm just hurting. Well, maybe it was somebody 20 generations ago that was pulled into activity by that goal. Because goals determine, remember that Harvard research that we talked about that says that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells fire, the maximum amount of data that goes into your perceptual construct is 9 bits. And whatever goes into that 9 bits comes out of the unconscious. And if I'm formulating, let's say in this case, a disturbed picture about luggage sitting in the room, then I'm in indirect relationship with my disturbance, my pain, my upset. Luggage is causing me pain.
She said, I shed several tears while reading this, and I don't even know what they were about when I shed the tears, but the book is great. So, her takeaway from that book was, even though I'm not a wizard, I can still do magic. And for some people, the concept of tapping on your face and body, or sometimes your fingertip points, and having your anger or fear or sadness or the yuckies go away seems magical. And if you don't know...
on the whiteboard, from being in person, or even in our online one, was making the V like, the simple circle of our body or what, and then the V, and then that, the love is down there, and so it slaps in on itself, and it goes down deeper into, and it touches that love, and so then we can feel out of that too. So I thought of that. But good catch, because clearly if there's something else going on in my thought process, I was quick to think of that rather than, the benefits of what happens when you cancel the goals.
And my offering would be, one of the things we talk about in laws of living is behavior. And behavior is the movement of a muscle. And the prime mover of muscles is thoughts. And so when my stomach gurgles, I say, no, something moved that muscle. There was something going on that caused that muscle to move. And I may not be aware of the thought, but there's one there.
Positive or negative thought patterns about any one of those 4 things. And when I do that, I am not awake and aware in the moment. I am not in the present moment awareness. And when you start to do this work and call your attention to this, you'll begin to have an opportunity to actually feel the consequences of your thoughts and the stories that you tell yourself about yourself and others, the past and the future. And you'll also begin to see that it truly is your stories about your situation that disturb you more than the actual situation. Time and time again, this awareness is liberating. Oh my gosh, I'm driving myself to distraction, worrying about something that hasn't even begun, worrying about something that may or may not happen. I was just talking to a person this morning, and he's actually planning a trip. He's got some restrictions, so he needs to use a walker, and he's planning a trip to go to the Bears game in Las Vegas, and he probably spent 10 minutes listing all of the ways this could be a disaster, all of the ways this may not go right. We do that to ourselves day in and day out without realizing it. We identify with the potentially negative outcomes and generate fear about them. Just as much as we take a breath. It is so deeply conditioned into our cultural process and our family norms. So we can begin to identify the examples. He gives examples of emotions that are associated with these four positions. For the me position, the grandiose emotions are being superior, powerful, arrogant, aloof, and haughty. For the me position, the depressive emotions are inferior, sad, inadequate, unwanted, and unlovable. When I'm in the you focus of my thoughts, I've identified with thoughts about you or someone or something else, those elevating judgments are looking like the emotions of appreciation and adoration, and the diminishing judgments look like rage, resentment, jealousy, hurt, and hate. When I'm focused on the past, the positive reminiscence leads me to feel proud, happy, and nostalgic, and the negative reminiscence leads me to feel guilty, blame, and regretful. When I'm focused on the future, the emotions for positive expectancy are hopeful, eager, and ebullient, and for the negative expectancy, it's worried, anxious, and terrified. Creating the ability to observe what emotional state am I in, and practice figuring out which pattern of emotion I'm in, or which position, past or future, other or self, I can restore myself to at least an semblance of that present moment awareness. And when I do, it turns the volume down on that, on the production of those emotions. So somebody typed in the chat room, can you give us a reference to where to find this description? So if you go to Richard Moss, all one word, MOSS.com, and then you click on the link for resources, and then the fourth one down says Mandala of Being. And when you go there are free videos, and there are too many to count. But they begin with a video on the mandala of being, and I would imagine that's everything you would need to know, and the resources for the answer to your question. So it's richardmoss.com, and then resources, and then mandala being. So more free videos there than you'd probably want to watch, and the one that has the mandala of being is only 3.5 minutes long, and he has reference there to the book that he wrote titled The Mandala of Being, and the one I'm reading from is the Inside Out Healing, Transforming Your Life. So he's only briefly touching on the mandala of being in this book, but he goes into it much more in depth in the book of the same name that was written before this one. There's also an interview there with him, Interzension Radio, Zension Radio. So he's got an interview there where you can listen to him talk about the mandala of being. So, thanks for the question. Inside Out Healing is the name of the book that I'm currently reading. And so go to richardmoss.com and find all the resources you could want. And we have about 20 minutes left to talk. What's your comment? What's your question? What's your answer? What's your testimonial? (563-999). The diagram useful, or are you thinking you need to go to richardmoss.com to see his video with a diagram in it? 760, you're in the air.
Hey, this is Ann in Florida. That was awesome. I had my eyes closed because I had just kind of woke up and turned the radio show on. And that way I could keep all the distractions out by listening to you with my eyes closed. And that was a perfect description of what you're calling the mandala. So it's like, even though I wrote down the website and stuff, it's like, no, it's like imprinted, like right there, because everything you said about it as you went to each arrow, I could relate to. And when you were talking about it before the diagram, you were talking about a tree, and of course that triggered my experience of the tree, of hugging the tree. So I'm trying to stay in the now, in the moment, which in the moment was listening to your voice, right? So as soon as you said tree, I went to the time that I hugged a tree because I was triggered by, you said the tree is alive. And I had read somewhere about that. So for a portion of my time in the past, so I could see, once you did talked about the diagram, okay, this is what happened when I heard the word tree. I went to the past, thought about the past, and then I also thought about the future from that same word tree, that, oh, I could go do that again because it was, hugging something alive. So that was amazing. I just was able to do what you were talking about, and I agree with it, and it's really simple.
Well, and the more you do that, and you practice that, there isn't anything here that's being said that says it's bad to have thoughts about the past or the future or somebody else or yourself. They're simply calling you to recognize what you create in your own experience when you have those thoughts and then identify with them, as opposed to just being in the moment and observing them. Oh, look, I went to the past. Oh, look, I'm having a bunch of fearful thoughts about the future. And just notice how when you're in the observer position watching those things, how much different an impact it has on you than when you're in that moment, you have those thoughts and you identify with them. And you think, oh my gosh, this is going to happen, and that is going to happen. And you make it real because you believe or identify with the thought. And that's all they're calling us to here, right? He's calling us to start observing and practicing that present moment awareness, which is almost exactly what Michael Singer calls us to in his, learning to live from a place of surrender work.
Right. But also I can see the benefit of it because I have been in the past. And I can identify a point even more recently of reacting. So when you were talking about that, it makes so much sense to, that instant or microsecond, like you said, where you're not in the now, react to something like blurting out something that isn't necessary or in conversation with somebody, thinking of my daughter at the moment. And it's like by practicing that, then it sounds like you slow the process of, say, reacting. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but I think you asked, when you practice it, do you slow the process of reacting? Yes, I think the idea, in my own personal experiences, has been that observation is key. Can I practice being in a state of observation and questioning without demanding an answer? Rilke would call us to this, right? The idea is that in the moment when your mind can ask a really good question, that same mind cannot comprehend the answer. So if the answer were given fully and completely the minute you asked every good question, it would sound like gibberish. It would sound like noise from another dimension or something spoken in a different language, because your mind needs to stretch and acquire experience to be able to comprehend what it hasn't ever experienced before. And all of our thoughts, all of the answers we have for things that come in the form of thoughts and words, they are based on our past. One of the things that Guy Finley says, and several people that are in the support group say, that's one of my favorite lines from him. He says, the new cannot be known. I can't know what is new. I can only experience it. And then after I have experienced it, it's no longer new, and it's the past, and I've got all kinds of thoughts and labels for it and judgments about it. But that's what Richard Moss is pointing to here. I focused the way I am when I'm truly being a good driver. And there's a passenger in the car, and we're holding a conversation. My awareness is of everything that's going on inside and outside the car and the conversation. I'm not zoned in, focused on one thing to the exclusion of something else. And that's what he's trying to help us build a skill set for doing. The now position at the center of the mandala, he calls it present moment awareness. And in that, you're resting in your natural state of being where no thought is creating an emotion in you. Your senses are alert, you're seeing and hearing whatever is happening, and you are feeling whatever is moving through you. You are aware of whatever images or thoughts are flowing through your mind, and you are not identifying with them or pushing them away, to add what Michael Singer would say. I'm not resisting any of those thoughts. Oh, look, I'm driving my car. Oh, look, there's a thought about getting into an accident right there if this person pulls out in front of me. I just notice it. I don't generate fear about it. I don't tense up as though it might happen. I just notice the thought.
You just become aware of it.
Exactly. That's that present moment awareness, which has with it, which brings with it a state of mind which is both focused and open spaciousness. Dale Allen Hoffman uses this term a lot. Openness, being open, being wide open, being in the space of openness, allowing, observing, experiencing without the thought label, without the judgment and critical analysis, without the past being overlaid into this moment, just breathing and being open and aware. Your essential orientation becomes the question, what is actually happening right now? And it's not a question that you answer with thought. It's simply a shift of awareness into a quality of alert receptivity. In that quality of being alert and receptive and open, your thoughts recede, and your experience of things is just the energy of experience.
Yes. I agree, because when I started listening to you, which was only probably 10 after, my eyes were closed and I was just resting in the bed, and my stomach, what I call a stomach, right, was just had like a gurgle or it made a noise, and it's like, oh, and you had just said something about the thought. Well, I didn't have to think about that. It just was. I experienced it. And it's like, until it happened, then I thought, oh, that must be coming from my stomach, right? So that would have been the thought. But when it actually happened, it was just there. I felt it.
Yeah, and there's an experience of it that happens before we judge it and have thoughts about it and label it as good or bad, right or wrong. And this kind of developing that spacious awareness is a thing that when we practice it, it will make that space between our experience, our initial moment of experience of something, and our thoughts and judgment arising, it will make that space just a little bit bigger. And if we start to work with that, we can create a buffer between our experience of life and our reactivity to it.
Right, which is so beneficial.
Well, and it's what Michael Ryce would say is what is needed to be able to engage in these spiritual faculty of choice, right? I need to be able to be in touch with a wide variety of options, so I'm not just reacting the way I have in the past because some thought, word, or action in me has gotten resonated.
So it would be the difference between if someone else had felt that little gurgling in their stomach, their thought might have arisen as, oh, my God, it's a pain. Oh, no, what's happening? I have an ulcer or something, right? Whereas someone else wouldn't think, I didn't think that at all, right? Because I didn't have that past, I guess, thought. Because I was listening to you. But that's how much you're
right. You're right onto something, because I routinely work with people who every time they get a tightness or a tension or any kind of discomfort, they think, "Oh my God, I've got cancer. Oh my God, I've heard about Guillain-Barré syndrome. Oh my God, I've got rheumatoid arthritis. I've got lupus. I think this is probably fibromyalgia." And where the Christ mind energy that's mentioned in today's Course in Miracles lesson, where that energy of the Christ mind can come and show you something completely different. Not Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Kiss the ground. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we do have a hand up. It's 541. I believe it's Miss Julie Matthews in Oregon.
Hey there, Julie.
Hi.
How are you, young lady?
Can you hear me good? Well,
you're loud and clear.
Oh, great. Okay. So I want to bring up since you're speaking about our wonderful earth that can grow a seed, I want to mention if anyone else is having the experience I'm having, which has been for quite a few months. And there's this smell in the air, there's smell in the water, there's smell in food that I'm eating, and it all tastes kind of like celery. And actually the smell is very pronounced in celery. The whole flavor of celery has changed. It's got some layer of flavor in it. And I live on the West Coast here in Oregon, and we're agricultural out here quite a bit.
Right.
And I don't know if it's my nose, because I'm there 87 times, 42 different
Every
smells.
time, right?
Yeah. And I do have a fear about that I took the COVID vaccine, so am I being affected? But the thing is, it's so prevalent. And I wondered if anyone else is experiencing that, and maybe you'll hear from people. I don't know.
I'll put my ear to the ground and ask the question, but it's not anything that I've experienced or am aware of.
Oh, here's a good example, too. It's the flavor I first noticed in eggs. And then I always read labels, and I started noticing celery powder.
Did you hear me say you're breaking up? I heard that you would not do what is the physical.
I would go off to the side with the U. So, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I would go, because I have a certain tone set for my text messages. So if I hear that tone, the negative thought might generate, because I don't have that space yet, might generate that reaction, oh no, it's my daughter texting, I need to dog sit again. Versus, oh, let me see who that is, right? Would be more positive. Oh, it might be so-and-so. Yep. Oh, I'd like to hear from them. Okay. But the more I would practice this space between reacting to or coming out of the moment that I was in, then I'm not going to react to that at all. Is that?
Well, it's more that I won't be identified with, cling to it, and argue for the negative reactions. Right? The thoughts come and go, and the idea is, if I have that momentary thought, oh my gosh, it's Larry, and I have such a hard time with Larry, then I just take a breath and I notice, oh look, I'm into the you dimension of the mandala of being. I'm projecting, or I went into my past file about Larry and all of the negatives, and now I just say, oh, look at that. I'm making up stories about Larry from my past, and it doesn't have the impact on me because I'm not identifying with it. I simply see, oh, look, thought has arisen. And I observe it like I would observe my breath or the tree or my heartbeat. Yeah. And then it has a very different impact on me.
Which then, of course, has a much better impact on my physiological body right there. It just lessens the stress that might have come up.
Right, and the physiological body is just part of your energy system. It's not separate from your mind or your emotions or your thoughts. They're not separate. Mm. Right? People have been asking me lately, they're getting ready for this Integrative Mental Health Summit on the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and they've asked me, okay, so you're going to be a presenter here, and answer this question for us. What is one thing that you would change in the training for a therapist or a psychologist? And my answer is this. Just what I just said to you. There is no separation in the energy that we call the mind, the emotions, the thoughts, the physical body. It's just an energy system. And all of these my will, my attention, my awareness, my focus, my identification, all these different words we use have to do with either constricting that energy and locking it down or keeping it open and just be in the open acceptance, allowing space. But the energy is still there, right? There was some preparation I was doing for today's show, and I was going to talk about, the idea of God from the other book, the book by Alan Cohen. And he's talking about creating a myth that helps people move a little bit toward understanding this flow of life energy that we call God or light or love or whatever. And it's just a myth. It's not the actual thing. The word is not the thing. But notice how we judge. God is good, and God is this, and God is bad, and God is vengeful, and God is loving. And that's all of our judgment. And we're projecting onto it. Take the story of the farmer who sows the seed, and some of the seed falls on the rock, and some of it falls on the deep, rich soil, and some of it falls among the weeds. And remember that story?
Yes.
And when you hear that, what do you think of? That the seed that falls in the deep, rich soil is good, and the seed that falls in the rocks or in among the weeds or on the stone is not such a good result, right? But the essence of our existence and our life is that seed is just seed. It's just energy, like everything else is energy. And if it falls in with the weeds, it becomes food for the weeds. If it falls in the rocky stuff, it gets to be food for the birds or the ants, or its energy gets transmuted into something that is no less valuable in the big picture of life energy than the seed that becomes the full-fledged plant with fruit or vegetables as a produce. It's just energy. And to be able to observe that is what we're talking about here in the now presence moment. To be able to observe, oh, look, I'm judging it as bad or wrong that this seed, which is just the energy of creation expressing in a form, is going to go through this level of transformation because it's going to be eaten by some ants or some birds and then transformed into energy, and then it's all just energy. But I'm going to judge that as bad because it didn't fall in this fertile soil and blossom into this. That's a judgment on me, and I'm called in this work to just notice what the tension, the constriction, the frustration, the pain, the negative emotion that I generate when I label something as bad or wrong. So, thank you for the call and the comments. It's nice to have somebody to bat things back and forth with a little bit here. I'm going to mute you so we can get to our second hour. Thank you, Ann. And I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Ryce.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. Quick question before you go. Is it Zenson Radio, or I didn't catch that part?
That is, that's, if they go to richardmoss.com and then resources and then Mandala of Being, they'll see that Inner Zen SION radio is one of the options for things they can click on the link to hear his interview with somebody else. But the big thing is richardmoss.com/resources.